All right, everybody, go ahead and let me know in the chat if you have audio and if we have video, because we all know how this works sometimes. Let's see here. Just going to get everything started off here in just a minute. Got some special guests dropping by tonight, so that should be pretty exciting. And hopefully we can start the year 2021 out a little bit better. Judging by my appearance, I think I'm trying to blend in gray man style with most of the survivors of 2020. So, kind of a crazy hairdo to kind of match the feeling and the, mental health of everyone out there. So, all right. So it looks like everybody can go ahead and say that they can hear me and they can see me. So that's good. All right. So awesome. So welcome to 2021, everybody. Very glad to see all of you are still here. I'm glad to see that we have made it to the next year after 2020, and it has been an interesting year, hasn't it? So we want to discuss some things happening right now, as well as some things that we can expect to see coming in 2021. And if we want to, of course, we can talk about some of the interesting things that we all know occurred during 2020 that we can also expect more of here in 2021. Let's see here. We have some really awesome people here in the chat. Give me 1 second. I'm going to go ahead and get some settings all figured out here since, it's been a minute since I've done a live chat. So let's see. And then I do have, like I said, a couple special guests coming by tonight. We definitely want to get some other opinions and some other advice and information from some of the awesome other, preppers and people in the community that are out there. So let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and check out the chat here for a second just to kind of get some ideas of who's all in here tonight. Looks like we got Rip Curl in the house. How's it going? Survival Living. How's it going there, brother? We got, let's see. Hello to Jello from Mello, which is hard to say, but I made it happen. So there you go. All right. Let's see. Jamie Standiford, North Dakota representing. There you go. Yeah, that's right. We have a large North Dakota crowd in the house, and I like to hear that. I mean, it is a state of self-sufficiency and preparedness, I would like to assume anyway. So, and just so everybody knows, I'm doing really good. Everything is going well. Haven't ran into getting another bout of the sickness quite yet, so that's a good sign, I guess. One thing I want to mention is that we are obviously entering some uncertain times with 2021 here finally arriving. We really aren't sure what things are going to occur and what to expect and what's going to happen. But we do know that the ramifications of 2020, the effects of the pandemic and everything else that's happened over this past year should show us that 2021 is going to be tumultuous in many ways, and that we haven't necessarily experienced all of the aftermath of 2020 as of yet, because honestly, there's a lot of things that have been lined up to eventually be knocked down here that haven't quite fallen yet, and that's something that we need to be aware of. It does have this strange sense of relief finally moving into 2021, where a lot of people and a lot of things that I'm seeing, at least when it comes to even people in the business environment, saying, okay, 2020 is over. Now we can get back to business as usual. We can get back to normal, and it's just not a reasonable mindset to have, because a lot of the things that have happened in 2020 aren't just going to magically disappear. And in fact, we're actually going to find ourselves dealing with a lot of these situations here moving forward for quite a while, I would assume. So let's see here. And of course, JD, I am not an actual magician, so I apologize for that. I've been working on it because I know that I have a duty to provide some kind of a magic trick or a show or something at this point in the life of the channel. But I still haven't gotten good enough to actually do it in public yet. So one of these days, okay, maybe I'll be able to, I don't know, light a fire while it's raining, and that'll be considered magic if you're me anyway. So. And of course, we got to have some coffee because, yeah, it's only 8 o'clock at night, and I got time before I'm trying to go to bed, so no big deal. Okay, so in the chat, feel free to ask questions. Feel free to put out your advice and your opinions on what to expect here in 2021. I think that those are all things that we're looking for here, and I want to make sure that we have everyone else's thoughts on what to prepare for, because that's what we're trying to do, is be as prepared as possible for what could happen here in the future and what could happen this year. And we can talk about how we've learned a lot from this previous year and get any other information from the rest of the community down here in the chat. And real quick, I've got Survival Living actually in the broadcast studio. So I'm going to go ahead and add him in, and we can get this party started with some of our special guest appearances. So, and I think I got you in there, brother. How you doing tonight?
Good, man. I was actually watching the chat.
Yeah,
Sorry,
no worries.
I don't have
hear
my
you loud
camera
and clear.
set
Video's coming
exactly
in good.
right. All right, well, that's good.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, Survival Living is previously known as Central Florida Prepper. He was on his way out to Wyoming when the pandemic started, and a lot of things changed for a lot of people when it came to their plans and everything at that point. So he's still in Florida. He is now known as Survival Living, has a great channel, especially if you want to learn how to prepare. He's very budget oriented and like storage space oriented, because he was able to convert a cargo trailer into a livable space, but then still wanted to be prepared and have supplies. So very well versed in things like setting up solar power systems and things like that. So CFP, as all of us like to call him here in the community, what are you most concerned about coming up in 2021 here? What are you thinking that what are you preparing the most for, I might say?
Brother, civil unrest, big time.
Okay.
And on a larger scale, as far as SHTF scenarios, I believe that we're going to see power grid failure to help control certain aspects with unrest. That's one of our big things. I mean, as you know, we prepare all the time for frontal mass ejections and EMPs. So yeah, that's our top one. Along with, there's a lot of different things that goes with it, but along with food shortage, I mean, we're seeing reports, everything from soybean to corn, and we're seeing more and more reports on a lot of our food stocks being sold to another country. I'm going to be careful with the actual name. It starts with a C, and you know who I'm talking about. So a lot of our stuff, I mean, you look at their exports to Brazil, they've had a lot of their food that's actually shortage now because they sold so much of an export to this other country. And now it's actually here on our board with also the floodings and stuff that we had in the recent years for our Midwest. So yeah, food shortage is another thing.
So do you expect the food shortages to eventually snowball into an unrest situation? Because I think that's something a lot of us can kind of agree on, that once people start to get hungry and they can't provide the basic necessities for them and their families, is when you can expect to see things maybe spiral out of control.
Oh yeah, and they're going to be pushing those, the culture meats. We're seeing that more and more. They've been talking about it for years now. It's right there in our face. I mean, they're culling chickens, they're culling pigs. It's basically going to be a reliability that you have to go through the government for this alternative food source. And yeah, if there's a limited stock on food, you want to see some people go crazy. They'll go crazy quick. So yeah, we always keep stuff stored. And like you said, we're in a 6x12 converted trailer. That's what we're going to be taking in Wyoming with us. And we were en route and we bent that spindle. Luckily though, we did fix the spindle. But with the whole pandemic that happened, we decided just to stay in spot. We had family here. It was easier for us to stay in spot and see what happens, because running to Wyoming with half a plan is not a good plan. Where we are, our property out there is in the middle of nowhere. I mean, we got a long ways to travel to get to town and get supplies. So last thing we want to do is run out there and catch winter time and try to build something with 6 foot of snow on the ground. So yeah, we're here in Florida right now, which is raining like crazy. I took my brother out last night to teach him how to hog hunt, and it's just rained all night long. It's been raining all day today and tomorrow. We got feral hogs real bad where we're at, and they're just tearing up the property bad. So he's never been. So I'm like, all right, you're going to be a shooter. I'll spot. I got night vision. We'll sit up in that tree. He grabbed a 12 gauge and he loaded up a 3-inch Magnum double buckshot. I'm looking at him. I said, "What are you going to do with that?" So I'm going to shoot it. I'm going to shoot a hog with that thing. I'm like, up in the tree. Yeah. So we're sitting on a 2x4. There's no support. In other words, when you shoot that thing, you're going to be knocked. This is about a 12-foot drop. You sure you want to do that? So I got him talking to something with a little less kick on that. But yeah, last night, man, it was a complete washout. I mean, we of course flooded out so bad here. It's ridiculous.
Well, and that's definitely part of living in Florida, which, is where I was born and raised the first 20 years of my life anyway. Rain city all day long. So, I would say one of the things that I I miss about Florida, and that I think I can say makes it a very good place for preparedness, is the abundance of natural resources, because you can't turn a corner without finding some kind of a critter or a water source or who knows what. I mean, tons of natural resources there. I don't think you would go hungry in Florida for a long, long time, especially if you had any concept of what you were doing and the sense of snares or trapping or anything like that.
Yeah. As far as small games, there's plenty of critters that run around everywhere. It might not be the most ideal food to eat. I mean, I don't mind eating raccoon, but it's not going to be a city raccoon, okay? And it's all right. Let me teach you a little secret there. Boil the meat really good, blanch it good, and then barbecue it, because they are some greasy animals. Like I said, though, it's not ideal to eat, but there's plenty of stuff to eat. There's plenty of water sources. Now down here, because the water table is so high, make sure you purify that water. Even if you're digging a small well by hand, purify it, because it does not have enough filtration from the surface before you hit table water here. So make sure you purify it very well, because there's a lot of impurities in it. Now your deep wells, of course, have the limestone and stuff like that. But I was doing bear survival buckets, showing people within 2.5 feet I was in water. So
Yeah.
At the water table, I wouldn't drink that water straight out of the ground. There's no way. There's not enough purification above it. So
I will say we do have Alaska Prepper jumping in now as well. So let's welcome him to the chat here. How's it going, AP?
Hello, everyone. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
AP.
You can't have
good to see you, brother.
You can't have a 2021 preparedness chat without Alaska Prepper, because otherwise we're all going to starve to death. So
there you go.
Well, we like I said, there was some special guests stopping in today, so of course the more the merrier. But one thing I would say for myself, and I think a lot of us can share in this sentiment, but Alaska Prepper, your information and a lot of what you focus on has really helped me grow in the sense of making sure I had more food storage and understanding like what's accessible to me in the sense of preserving food for myself. So one thing I wanted to kind of ask you about is, do you feel like this year 2021 is going to test some of us in the sense of having enough food supply, having enough storage when it comes to being able to eat?
Well, I personally think that there's going to be enough food this year to go around. Now, the food shortage is going to come in the form of inflation. So there's going to be enough food to go around, but most of our country, I would dare to say that half of our countrymen right now can't even afford to feed themselves or their families. So when I say food shortage in the way of inflation, that's what I mean. There's going to be food available, but most people are not going to be able to afford to go out and buy that food. In the way of food shortage in the future, for example, with our harvests and with the climatic changes that we've been undergoing and are still undergoing, I think that within the next 3 or 4 years, we are really going to feel an actual food shortage where we won't have enough. Right now, we have just enough of a rollover into this year to feed us for this year. But we've been at a deficit for the last few years. So I think that as the climate gets more unfavorable to growing conditions that we're used to, without us changing something in the way that we grow food, I feel that around 2023, 2024, we will really feel it, not just as a country, but as a world. So I would say that if you have a full pantry, make sure that you fill in your gaps. If you don't have a full pantry, make sure that you make that your priority. Because, a lot of people ask me, why do you concentrate on food so much? Well, because without food, you can't do anything. It doesn't matter how many boomsticks and freedom beans you have, right? If you're starving, what are you going to do? Eat that boomstick? Eat your freedom beans? No, you can't. You need food in order to be able to operate. And what it does is it alleviates a stressful situation so that you can actually think about those things that you really need to do. So food is out of the way. You've already got stocked up on food. You can expend your energies on other things like security, like medicine. If it gets bad enough, patrolling your neighborhood or your property where you live. So make sure that you have all of the food that you need. I used to say that we should have enough of a food supply to last us 3 to 6 months. And I've changed that to a minimum of a year, because I feel that the farther that we get into, or the closer that we get to 2024, 2025, the more expensive food is going to be, therefore making it more difficult for your average person to be able to actually prepare. So when you get your little stimulus check, make sure that you spend it on what I like to call things that bring value to your life, instead of spending it on things that you're going to forget about a month from now and not even know that you ever had it. So, take a look at your pantry and treat it as if it were a savings account. It's the best savings account there is. It draws a very high interest rate, if you want to look at it that way. So that's the first and foremost thing that I would say that people should be preparing. And if they're already prepped in that way, to continue to fill in your gaps.
That's some really good advice. And I honestly think that the concept of being priced out of food isn't touched on enough. Yes, there's a lot of reasons to feel that there could be shortages in the sense of production or supply chain issues, but I think you're right. The inflation and the effect the economy has had over this past year will be the main reason why people can't put food on the table. And right. Like you said, I know this is a big point in a lot of your videos, but I've always really grasped onto your concept of, when you buy food now and store it away, you're eating for less money in the future.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, CFP, I know you have also had a lot of videos showing, just like weekly preps where you go in and buy $50 worth of, preserved foods, just to kind of show people what's possible with that amount of money and how much you can actually put away. So it's really not as expensive to put that 1 year supply of food away as a lot of people think.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And like I said before, that's where I got the idea from, was this man right here. Watching his channel, he had the payday preps. And I had so many people ask me, $20 is about all I've got left. I'm like, well, let me show you what I can do with $20. And, $20 here and there, even if you can't do it every single week, and it's only $5, that's a couple meals if you do it right. That's a couple meals that you just got put back. The more meals you got gives you more days from an expiration date for yourself, or putting yourself in a situation. I like those odds. I like having food put back, and gives my life extensive time to make plans. If I got to evacuate out, well, I've got enough energy to do that if I have to, compared to sitting around and go, well, I've got maybe 3 days worth of food in the cupboards. No, I haven't been that way since Y2K. No, I don't do that.
Well, and I think that there's a lot of people out there that think that things are too expensive to get a hold of, but in many ways they can make it work if they just try to dig a little bit harder. I do want to mention, let's see here. Okay, People's Truth said the cerveza bug is just an excuse to call state of emergency to activate FEMA and concentration camps with whoever doesn't get the shtick voluntarily, which I use that verbiage for obvious reasons. And a lot of people feel the same way. There's a lot of that sentiment going on, and obviously we'll see how this whole thing unfolds, but it's been an interesting story, I would say the least. And I do want to say, Tono Tano basically was asking, and I want you guys to kind of run with this if you can, but and I think you kind of already did, Alaska Prepper, but he's basically saying, okay, what should people focus their $600 on when it comes to the stimulus checks? And I would assume that your first thought, AP, is on food supply, correct?
Well, yeah, I mean, I follow what I call the 5 B's of prepping. Beans, Band-Aids, bullets, bouillon, and then barterables. However, the first 3 B's are the most important. And what I like to tell people that have not started to prep yet is concentrate on that first B, which is beans, which it doesn't only encompass food, but really it encompasses all of those biological needs that you may have. You need food, you need water, you need warmth, you need shelter. You need to take care of all of those things first to allow your body to be able to live. We are biological beings, so we need those things. So once you have your, I would say, once you have your 3 to 6 month supply of food, continue to add to that supply to bring it up to a year. But then you can start working on your second B of prepping. And that would be in the form of number one, prescription medications. If you're on a life-saving prescription medication, try to get as far ahead as you can with that. If you can get a 3-6 month supply. Some people, I'm not a doctor, I'm not recommending this, I'm just telling you what I've heard. Some people take let's say, for example, you're on heart pills. And in order for people to extend their supply further out than what their doctors will allow them, what they do is they may miss a day, or they may take a half a pill a day instead to extend that supply. However, do your research, do what you're comfortable with doing. But you need to take care of those things first, your life-saving medicines, and then go into your OTCs, over-the-counter medications of things that you know you use on a regular basis. Don't go spending money on things that you don't normally use just because it looks cool, right? If you know that you use Vicks Vapor Rub every year around this time because someone in your house gets a cold or something, go ahead and stock up on a couple of jars. You know, if that'll last you a couple of winters, etc. Oh, even with Band-Aids, you know, bandages, antibiotic creams. There's so many things, but we are all different. So my list is not necessarily the best list that you should go by. You should go by the list that you already know you use. You know, and then once you've got your first 2 weeks of prepping, I like to tell people that what good is it spending all of that time, all of those resources, all of that money on prepping your first 2 weeks of prepping if you're going to end up letting the biggest thug in the neighborhood take it from you? So the third B of prepping is bullets, and that stands for self-defense. You know, I like to say that a firearm, a boomstick, be it a short or a long one, is a great equalizer. It is something that can allow a 125-pound mother of 3 protect herself against a 350-pound guy who's high on drugs and wants to do you and your children harm. So, you know, work on it that way. I always start with food and water and shelter and all of that stuff, because you need to have that in order to live. All those other things, even if you're on life-saving medication, let's say, for example, that you're a diabetic, even though that's a very important thing for you to have, you should still take care of your your food and your biologicals. Why? Because a lot of times here, especially in the United States, I think we're the most medicated country in the world. And a lot of times our diets dictate what medicines we have to take. So let's say there is some kind of an SHTF, right? And things go down and you can't get medication. More than likely, you'll probably be all right if you're on a reduced diet because you don't have a choice. Because those foods that you are eating anyways, that we eat on a regular basis, are the culprits as to why we are unhealthy, you know, as a nation. So, you know, so yeah, I always say start with food. And if you have your food, go down the list. I can't reiterate this enough. Don't follow someone's list. If I do a video and I show you, hey, look at what I got for my payday prep, or CFP does a video and says, hey, look at what I got for my payday prep, don't go get what he got. Don't go get what I got. We're just giving you ideas as to what you can do to further extend your pantry and your preparedness in that form, the form of food preservation and or storage.
No, that's great advice. And obviously everybody has their own individual needs. Like you said, you know, what you might need medically as a necessity might not apply to somebody else. So it is hard to say, here's what you should buy for $600, you know, and that's universally not something you can answer the question of, I guess, you know. Right. But I do agree with what you said there, the priority of it, you know. And of course, you know, for a lot of us, it feels like, well, $600, you know, I could go buy a new Glock, you know, I could go buy a bunch of overly priced ammo or whatever it might be. But then at the end of the day, like you said, I can't eat that. I can't, right. I can't rely on that when I need to, you know, use an inhaler or something along those lines, you know. So
hey, trust me, Matt, trust me, I would love nothing more than to go out and buy a new Glock 23. But you know, you have to look at it. Do you already have one? If you already have one, are you proficient with it? Do you have enough ammo for it? If you're answering yes to those questions, then do you really need a second one? It's nice to have a second and a third and a fourth. I mean, if you watch me at all, you know that I like having a second and third and fourth backup, right? Yeah. It's nice to have those things, but do you really need it? Is there something that you need more than that? It's just prioritizing your needs is what it is. It's not acting with emotion or like I really want that, but acting as an informed person and prioritizing the things that you need, and then go ahead and be an adult and say, no, I have to get rice with this instead of getting a new Glock, right, or pasta or whatever it is that you eat. So.
Yep. And one thing I am guilty of that I know a lot of us are probably in the same boat with is almost like acquiring a new piece of gear or a new piece of equipment, and you haven't even tested out the other one yet. You know? Yeah. I mean, it happens sometimes, and you get too excited, and then you turn around, and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot I even had that. You know? So let's see. I know that one of the things, the big topic lately, and I know it's something that a lot of people are concerned with, and it's something that, you know, I've tried to touch on because I feel like it's definitely an issue. It seems like these very basic attacks on our infrastructure keep occurring. And I'm just wondering if this is like a trend, or if people are starting to figure out how easy it is to do, or what's causing the escalation in it. But I mean, I had a viewer of the channel just send me an email a couple days ago about somebody knocked over a cell tower, and you know, they're calling it vandalism, but it was like a 350-foot tower. So I don't know,
Wow.
I don't know if that's vandalism, or like, did someone just, you know, go over and kick it and it fell over because it was badly designed? Like, I doubt it. So it seems like these things are happening more and more. And, you know, I just wanted to know what you guys' thoughts were, if that's something that you're preparing for. And it almost feels like the grid down situation we talk about a lot could be more localized and more based on the frailty of our infrastructure than it is on something like an EMP or something like that, you know?
Well,
Go ahead, CFP.
We did a story on that a while back, and especially about see how I can put this, training camps here in America, let's put it that way, of other people, and it's actually been reported on. I did a story a while back on that, and part of those training camp scenarios was taken out of substations. And I believe, I forget what year it was, they had a couple substations get shot up there in California, and they lost power, stuff like that. And they had video surveillance of these individuals outside fences and things like that. Do I believe there's going to be an uptake in it? Yeah, I think the vulnerability is obviously there, and I think people are getting more and more aware of it. Look at the situation with these substations. All right, there's if there's a camera there, which usually there's not, it's not a camera that's actively monitored. The only time they check these things out is when something's already happened. Then they go back and review stuff, things like that, because there's just an unmanned location. It's not wired anywhere else. Most of the time, a large majority of these things are off to themselves, away from everybody. I mean, I've driven up to them before. Man, when I was younger, I used to go down the road to those places and go make out, okay, because I knew no one was out there. All right. So if I was up to no good, it's a perfect opportunity. No one's going to bother me. Okay. And the fact is, anything can happen. Do I think there's going to be more of it as far as people utilizing these things are by themselves? Yeah, I think we will. And I think more and more of the homegrown type of individuals, groups, are going to see the uptake as far as how much destruction and how much panic they can cause. Because you take something like this down, it takes a while to replace that equipment. This is why we talk about alternative power sources. And like AP just said, though, have your food first. You can survive without electricity unless you have to have medical equipment that runs your electricity runs at, or if you're living in an area that you don't have a wood stove and it's negative 20 degrees outside, you're gonna have to have some form of electricity that way. But get your food first. Then once you settle with your food, and I say a year to start with, a normal foods. All right, we as preppers, we get into long-term food storage, but I believe AP will completely agree with me on this, and YouTube Magic Prepper, get your normal foods first, stuff that you normally eat first, and then once you have that security, then you can start putting a little bit back for that long-term stuff that lasts 25 years and longer. But once you got that first year, then you can start playing around with alternative power like solar, or a good generator, or a solar generator, water turbines. I've seen those. I would love to get my hand on a good water turbine, because as long as you have water flow, you've got power. Same with wind turbines. But do your research on the equipment, but get that food first.
Sounds good to me. And that makes sense. Like, for thousands of years, humans have lived without electricity, but for only about 30 days without food. So, you know, that makes sense to me. I want to mention, let's see here. Trying to catch up on some of the chat. I'm not trying to forget anybody. Let's see. So Prepper Days just wanted to mention that New York is introducing a ban on body armor. I think that's something everybody could have seen coming at some point, of course. I definitely mentioned it in at least a couple of videos, and I felt like it was something that could easily become hard to find and hard to acquire eventually. But that's just because they're going to keep reaching. You know, every time they take an inch, they take a mile. And that's, of course, you know, on the list of things that they don't like people to have. So definitely something to keep an eye on there. Tom F., I appreciate it. You know, we're hoping to get a lot more content out this year. And I know for all of you who are either new here or for any of you who have been around for a long time, if you guys don't, you know, currently subscribe to Survival Living or to Alaska Prepper, make sure you go check them out because there's some great information there. And both these guys offer other types of information than what I have on my channel that I find very valuable as well. So it's definitely important to diversify. You know, don't put all your eggs in one basket. There's plenty of good information out there, and I'm not always right all the time. You know, so it's good to have secondary opinions sometimes. That's just how it works. You know.
I just had to laugh at that. News changes all the time, man, and stuff. And I got people, hey man, why aren't you covering this story? Well, it's just not my style of YouTubing. And so, you know, I've talked about that in the past with other people. I mean, there's all these other YouTubers that discuss a current event or something like that, but they've got a little bit better connection in that field, or they have an inside connection that I don't have. And I don't want to get up there and start going, yeah, guys, this is going to happen. I'll tell you right now, knife hand, and we're going to do it this way. And then look like a complete idiot 3 days later. So, yeah, you know, I don't get into a lot of stuff either.
You know, and honestly, knife hand is probably going to get censored, so be careful with that one. All right.
Oh, all right. Yeah, you're probably right there. You're probably right. But yeah, guys, I mean, Alaska Prepper, you know, when I first started, before I even started YouTube, and I was already prepping, but before I even started YouTube, and I was watching him for forever, it seemed like there was a bunch of good prepping communities I was watching. And I remember when we first met, I don't remember whose live stream it was, but man, we were both starting our channel off. We had like 10 subscribers. As a matter of fact, last night I was sitting there watching my 1 year subscriber video where I was going through 1 year of YouTube, and your name was there. And I was talking about it. I'm like, yeah, I remember we didn't have anything. We didn't know anything. Our first collaboration video was an all-day event trying to get these things worked out. You're doing all the editing. We're using Dropbox and everything else. It was a mess, but hey, we had fun with it.
Well, we made it happen, you know, and definitely it's a ride, and it's been a ride. And this year was definitely an interesting year for being on this platform, especially in the realm of preparedness. You know, a lot of great new people to the community. I'm sure you guys get a lot of emails and questions on your channels from new preppers, people who are new to the concept that want to learn, want to be better prepared for the next time around. And, you know, I find that to be relieving because I think the more people who have that mindset, the better off we're all going to be, you know?
Hey, Matt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to shout out the Urban Prepper. He's in the house. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, I just saw him.
Urban Prepper's here. Awesome. Awesome. Another great channel. There's actually a lot of really good channels in this chat right now. So,
I also wanted to talk a little bit on the civil unrest.
Yeah.
And I can tell you one thing, and I may look like a jackass a year from now, but what I would say right now is that we will 100% continue to have civil unrest for the entirety of this year, if not for the next few years.
Yeah.
And there's only one reason I say that. There's no reasoning behind it as far as the fundamentals, I guess you can say. But I'm a cycles guy. And the cycle for civil unrest is about every 60 years. And the last time that we had a multi-year cycle of civil unrest was back in the late 60s.
Yep.
Or mid to late 60s, right? So we are in that time frame for civil unrest, and it's going to last a few years. So just make sure that you understand that. First of all, don't take my word for it. Do your own homework and do your own research. And if you do agree with that, prepare accordingly, because we will have civil unrest. It doesn't matter who ends up in the White House. It doesn't matter. We will continue to have civil unrest. We're going to continue to have sabotage on our infrastructures, on our food supply. One thing that's really weird, I was going to say funny, but it's not funny at all. But I saw a video here a few weeks back, and what they're doing to farmers now is they're going to their cornfields and like duct taping big heavy metal bolts to their corn stalks. That way, when the machine grabs it, it ruins the machine.
And those harvesters are not cheap.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. So they're doing that, and like you said, they're going to continue to take down power stations. Maybe not as at a systemic level, meaning the entire nation, but a localized grid. So yeah, we need to prepare accordingly as far as those things go. And you know, it's going to be kind of a perfect storm, in my opinion, because not only are we on the cycle of civil unrest, but you know, I'm not sure if you guys have ever talked about. I know CFP has about the solar minimum. Well, not only are we in a solar minimum right now, but we are entering into the cycle of a grand solar minimum, which means that we're going to have declining solar radiation for the next several decades, meaning that the energy that we get from the sun is going to get less and less and less. And what needs energy from the sun in order to grow? The food that we eat, the food that we rely on to feed ourselves. So that's one of the reasons why I say that by like 2024, 25, we're really going to feel the effects of food shortages because of the solar minimum that were entered and the grand solar minimum that were entered into as well. So those are things that we want to prepare for. And another one of the storms that's part of the, you know, several storms coming together is our financial and economic system. Our financial system pretty much died back in 2008, and they've been holding it together with digital duct tape, I guess you can call it,
on life support
for the last 12 years, right? And eventually, I've always said that anything that is manipulated can be manipulated until it can no longer be manipulated. So one of the things that I'm starting to do this year is preparing to try to have as much as my wealth transferred into a vehicle that will allow it to keep its purchasing power. Not investing it, but just transferring it into a form that will allow it to keep its purchasing power. So those fiat currency notes that we've all been used to calling money, which is really not money, those things are not going to be I'm not going to say worth anything because they're not really worth much now, but they're not going to be trusted as much as they are currently. And when trust goes away, the value tends to follow. So protect yourselves as far as wealth preservation as well.
Yep. And like Cameron Malouf just chimed in and asked if anyone's changing their 401k or doing something different with their retirement. Obviously, no one here is a financial advisor, so those are questions that are hard to answer, you know, for everyone's individual situation. But what I will say is that a lot of the, I guess some of the benefits that they had out because of the CARES Act expired in December. And there was some things you could have done before December that could have actually helped you out without as many penalties as what they used to have attached to things like, you know, cashing out a 401k or something along those lines. So now you'd have to be a little bit more strategic about what you would do with that wealth just because of the expiration of some of those laws. That's the best thing I can say about it right now without giving anyone bad advice. Because the last thing I want to do is tell somebody to invest in something and, you know, turn them upside down on accident. So,
well, man, can I chime in on that right there?
Yeah,
you know, you guys are going to get me going if you're going to be talking about the economy and finances, because that's like one of my favorite hobbies.
And it's important.
So I'm not going to talk. I'm going to do the same thing as you. I'm not a financial advisor, but I am the proud graduate of an associate's degree in general education. So I'll let that do the talking for me. So what you have to ask yourselves is this, ladies and gentlemen. How do you know that the money in your 401k exists? Right now, just in the United States alone, we're not talking about the world, but just in the United States, the M2 money supply, which encompasses all the coins, all the dollar bills, everything that you have in your savings and checking, CDs, and then all of the mutual funds, Roth IRAs, 401ks, IRAs, all that kind of stuff. That's the M2 money supply. I might have missed a thing here or there, but pretty much that's the M2 money supply. Right now, the U.S. M2 money supply, the last I remember, I think it was around $19 trillion. Right? That means that there's $19 trillion floating out there that belongs to someone in their 401k, that belongs to you because you have money in savings and checking and whatever. There's 19 point something trillion dollars. In the entire world, there is only $1.7 trillion in physical form. All right, so get that through your head. There's less than 10% of the money in the entire world in physical form than there is in the entire United States. And that's not counting the dollars that exist outside of the US. Now, inside of the US, there's only about 600 to 700 billion physical dollars. All right. So for $19 trillion, that it's almost like saying I've got $19 trillion in the bank, but I know that the bank only has 600 billion. Now ask yourselves, would you like to leave your wealth in that type of a system? I'm not telling you to take it out or leave it in, but ask yourself, if you went to your bank and you told your bank, hey, I want to take out $10,000. And they say, yeah, but we only have $7 in reserves. So we can only give you $7. Would you want to leave your money in that bank? I would assume that most people would say no. And that is what it's like with all of these 401ks, IRAs, retirement funds. All of these things exist only in digits. That's why I say purchase things with your wealth. And what I mean by wealth is the fiat currency that you've accrued with your time, with your energy, with your skills. Try to get things with your wealth that will add value to your life, instead of just leaving that wealth somewhere so that inflation can chip away at it. And then by the time that you really need it, it's not going to be able to buy you anything close to what it could have bought you had you transferred that wealth into something that actually maintains its purchasing power. So those are the questions you want to ask yourself when you say, should I take my money out of 401k? How much do you trust the politicians to make laws that when it's time for you to take your money out, how do you not know that by the time that you can take your money out of your 401k, there won't be a 90% tax on it? You don't know. You have no idea. Why? Because politicians write law, and politicians are man. And what I mean by man, mankind. They're man, and man can become corrupt very easily. So I would not trust a penny in the system. And I can tell you right now, I keep enough money in the bank to pay my bills and a small bit of an emergency fund. Other than that, I don't trust the system at all. You know, we've been taught to go along with this system since we were kids. And we've never been taught the things that really matter, because if we knew them, we would not go along with the system. Nobody teaches kids what real money is.
No.
You know, you can ask my daughter what real money is. She'll tell you in a hurry. She knows exactly what a fiat currency is. She knows exactly what a real money is. She'll tell you in a hurry. But the schools were designed to not teach our children that, so that they can become good workers and good savers. Savers so that they can have dollars put away that can be deflated, or so that they can be inflated and lose their purchasing power. So you have to educate yourselves on how our government works, number one, and how our financial system works, number two. And then by the time that you educate yourselves, go ahead and read Confessions of an Economic Hitman by John Perkins. That will let you know how our government works, okay? And then go ahead and read The Creature from Jekyll Island by G. Edward Griffith. That will let you know how our economic system / financial system works. Now, after you read those two books, and once you've calmed down, because it's going to tick you off so much once you read the things that's in those books, then you can make an informed and educated decision. So for about $30 on Amazon, you can buy those two books and give yourselves an education that you were never taught about in school or in college. They don't teach it in college either, because they don't want you to know. I'm done preaching. I'm done preaching, Matt.
No, that all makes sense. And honestly, there's a good reason to have distrust in anyone that's in the form of a bureaucracy controlling any of your finances, you know. And I think, you know, of course, the preparedness community has a lot of skepticism around just about everything. So the financial system is no different, you know. And I definitely think that education is a huge part of what people are lacking when it comes to making good financial decisions. So, you know, educating yourself and reading and learning as much as you can about it will help, you know, put you ahead of the rest of the crowd that doesn't really know anything about it. I will say the Urban Prepper chimed in to let us know that the Warrior Poet Society put out a video recently about, you know, how to basically set up your 401k for doomsday, you know, so that's definitely something that's probably worth a watch. As well as I know City Prepping recently has been putting out a few videos about how to kind of pivot financially for the future and for 2021. And I found his videos to be very, you know, helpful as well. So there's definitely some good content out there in the preparedness community about what's happening right now, how to prepare for this financial situation we're all facing, because if you have learned anything at all from 2020, it should be that we haven't experienced its aftermath yet here in 2021. We're going to actually feel the effects of a lot of what's happened now, whereas before we were actually just kind of in a limbo, you know, situation, watching everyone lose their jobs, watching everyone lose their homes, watching everyone lose their income, but the ramifications of that haven't yet, you know, come to fruition.
You guys see that latest report on Google being hacked? They actually admitted it. Yeah, they said they were actually their source code was actually viewed by hackers. They actually came out. It was a day ago they came out with that. When it comes to stuff digitally, bank accounts, things like that, you do whatever you want to, guys. I'm not here to tell you otherwise. I can tell you what I do myself. We keep cash on hand. We keep gold and silver. Now, I've already heard the comments many times before. You can't eat gold or silver. Absolutely correct. You cannot eat it, or you could, but you'll still be having a gold bar or silver bar come out the south end. But either way, it's a good wealth transfer for when things restabilizes in a SHTF. Now, we keep ours mainly because when it first goes down and the dollar drops, it will hold value for a little bit. So that's why we have ours. And we also have ours for when society starts rebuilding and commerce gets readjusted. Gold and silver has always been part of a currency throughout history. All right. Just because we have SCH here in America doesn't mean the whole world is also having it. Just like Venezuela. As a matter of fact, Alaska Prepper did a story on a 1 ounce silver coin, how much 1 ounce of silver was worth in Venezuela when they were having their hard times. The rest of the world kept turning. They were going through SHTF there. And what 1 ounce of silver was buying was amazing. So I get that you can't eat it. We keep cash on hand. I don't leave nothing digital. Every time I get paid and stuff like that, it gets pulled out. That way I have it on hand. There's no way. I used to have Wells Fargo years ago, and I got screwed out of $700 when they had a hiccup. And of course, there was no reference or bank accounts or anything that said that I had that there except for my own personal records. So yeah, I don't play around with the banks and stuff. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm just saying I don't, and that's the reason why.
Well, and one thing about gold and silver that, you know, doesn't get touched on as often, other than its, you know, intrinsic value and everything else related to it, is that it is used in electronics throughout the entire world. So its use in electronics is going to be valuable regardless of what the world is facing, because unless something extremely disastrous occurs in the sense of like a planet-ending scenario type thing, you know, countries are going to still develop and still push forward when it comes to technology and advances, and they're going to need that precious metal in order to do that. So definitely still something that's going to be valuable regardless of, you know, a financial situation, just because of its raw material necessity. I do see in the chat, and so I like to look in the chat kind of to see what everybody's feeling, and I have seen some like disagreement with some of what we're saying here. So, you know, if you don't agree with like what the concepts are here when it comes to what people are doing financially and stuff, let us know in the chat, so that way we can just kind of talk about it and you know, see what your thoughts are there. So one of the things I want to mention too, Rip Curl and Josh Connor, thank you guys so much for being mods. I appreciate what you do. We all know that mods are very important in the live chats, and that we do want people to still be able to express their opinion. So, you know, the mods are here to protect us from spam and trolls and stuff like that. But just because you disagree with what we're saying here doesn't mean that you're going to get the ban hammer. What I will say, though, is if you guys want to share some of the links to different channels, like, you know, Survival Living, Alaska Prepper, even some of the other channels that are in here, like Marfugal TV and the Urban Prepper, just so everyone in the chat can get some other ideas and other, you know, forms of information from different channels and different creators out there, because there's a lot of really good content out there that can help everybody. So 2021, one of the things that we're seeing right now that I think that, deserves a discussion, we already are in a resurgence period, especially in the sense of lockdowns and everything else in regards to the pandemic. But now we're starting to see the, I guess, almost expected mutation situation occur, where we're getting a more aggressive version of it from the UK, and it's starting to show its head here in the United States. And do you guys feel that this mutation situation that was very predictable in many ways is going to kind of push everything over that edge? We saw what lockdowns were before. We saw that there was no real martial law or anything like that back in, March and April, when everyone thought that could be a possibility. However, if something becomes more aggressive and has a higher fatality rate, are we expecting to see that mutation situation be used to push some of those more, I guess you would say, hardcore restrictions into place?
I guess I'll take this one, Matt. So, yeah, I don't talk about this too much. And before I say what I'm about to say, let me tell everyone that I do believe this bug is real. Okay, we just lost, I don't know if you guys know, but we just lost a YouTuber, Howie, from Cedar Creek Homestead, and he had the bug, and he passed away a couple days ago in the hospital. So yes, it's real. There is a mortality rate. People will expire. They will pass on. It happens. All right. However, I think the real issue here is not the bug. It's the power grab that the powers that be are, getting on because of this bug. What is it? Don't ever let a good crisis go to waste. All right. I believe that all of these lockdowns, first of all, do you know what quantitative easing is?
Yeah, I'm familiar with it.
Okay, so if I'm gonna go offline a little bit here so I can bring it back, but you'll understand why. So back in 2008, before 2008, quantitative easing was never done. In 2008, we're gonna do quantitative easing. That's gonna fix everything. And then quantitative easing 2 happened, and then quantitative easing 3 happened. And now we're doing quantitative easing infinity, meaning that the Federal Reserve doesn't plan on printing money. They're doing at least $50 billion a month of mortgage buybacks. They're printing money to buy bad mortgages from the banks. That's quantitative easing. Okay, so if 1 didn't work and 2 didn't work, what makes you think 3 is going to work or 4 is going to work? It's not. It's just going to make the situation worse. Okay, let's go back to the lockdowns. Did the first one work according to them? According to the people that tell us that we have to be locked down again. If the first one didn't work, what makes you think the second one's going to work? And what makes you think that the third one or fourth one is going to work? This has nothing to do with trying to keep a population safe. It has everything to do with trying to control a population. They will see how far they can push us, and then they will hold back a little bit when they see that things are getting a little bit too rough. And then they'll start pushing again. So there's going to be a rest period. I believe that there's going to be, coming into this next year, there's going to be a little bit of time, maybe a few months, where things are going to look great. Things are going to seem that they're doing really good. We're doing good as a country, even as the world. And then guess what? There's going to be another crisis that's twice as bad as the one that we just had. And they're going to continue to use these crises in order to see how far they can push us. And in my opinion, their ultimate goal is to completely eliminate the middle class. The middle class is what makes a country strong. All right, the middle class is what makes a country strong. They're going to try to eliminate the middle class, and they've done a very good job at it. Since the beginning of last year till the end of last year, there was 70 million people in the U.S. that filed for unemployment. 70 million people. Of that 70 million people, about 30 million or so will never go back to their jobs and will lose their homes and be reliant on government more than ever. Now, what's the best way to control a population? When you have that population reliant on you, when you have a group of people looking to you for a handout, looking to you for that loaf of bread, you have control over those people. And eliminating the middle class is exactly what will allow that to happen. Is where you have the majority of the people in the U.S., which is the middle class, be dependent on government. Then they'll own us. Then they'll come out with their digital cryptocurrency, right? Once they come out with their digital cryptocurrency and they eliminate cash, we are 100% owned by the government because they can demonetize your life with the push of one button. One entity will be able to have all the power over everyone. So I believe that this health crisis is real. I believe it exists. I believe you ought to be careful. Just do common sense things. Wash your hands. Don't touch your face 2,000 times a day. If someone is sick, maybe don't go and party with them, right? Maybe give it a little bit to make sure that you don't bring that stuff back home. Just use common sense. I mean, in the old days, if we knew that somebody had the cold and we didn't want to get the cold, we just stayed away from them until they got better. What's the difference? There is none. But our economy is being destroyed, and we will end up being a two-class society, one of the haves and one of the have-nots. Let me tell you what the scary part about having a two-class society is, Matt, is that what's going to be in the middle? If you have the have and the have-nots, what's in the middle? Let me ask you that question. What's in the middle?
The stretch too
I'll
thin.
answer for you. All right. In between the haves and the have-nots, in the middle is going to be a police state.
Yep.
Enforcing the will of the haves onto the will of the have-nots. And don't you see that happening right now? I see that happening right now. I saw a video the other day where a guy was arguing with 3 police officers because they wanted him to shut down his restaurant and he wouldn't do it. And he kept telling them, well, how's my cook going to pay his rent? His wife is pregnant. How's my waitress and my waiter is going to pay their rent? How are they going to buy food? And then he asked the police officer, he asked her, what makes you essential? Why aren't you home during this lockdown? And you know what the police officer told him? She told him, because I have a family and I have to take care of them.
Oh,
so
great
you
answer.
see, there's your police state there, and it will get worse. You know why? Because we're human, and we're not perfect. And when I heard that police officer give that person that answer, I was like, oh my goodness, doesn't this person see what she's doing? It's like an oxymoron, or you could say hypocrite as well. I'm destroying someone's life because somebody told me to, because it's my job, because I don't want my life to be destroyed. So I'm gonna be all right with destroying someone's life. So I'm not trying to get conspiratorial, on this channel, but it's what I see happening. I see Americans, for the most part, losing everything that they've ever worked for. Let me ask you a quick question. Let's say tomorrow you woke up and your channel was gone, erased, gone. That would be a pretty hard hit, right?
Of course.
And it would be because you worked very hard to get to where you are. Now imagine if you are one of these people that had a restaurant or a small store or a business that they've worked in for the last 25, 30 years. And now all of a sudden it's gone by the decree of one person saying you're going to shut down whether you like it or not. So that's what I see happening. I don't see it getting any better anytime soon. I do believe that after all of the dust settles and everything that happens, I believe that good will prevail over bad, and we'll have a good starting ground, but it's going to get worse before it gets better. So prep up, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, and I think that was as it was lovingly referred to in the chat, a good rant. So
yes.
But no, I mean it's hard to argue with many of those points, and honestly, watching what's happening financially to a lot of these businesses, especially in the industries most affected, the service industries, the salons, the restaurants, the bars, the gyms, all those places. I mean, those people put their heart and soul into businesses that literally operate on barely any margin. I mean, they are expecting at a very well ran restaurant outfit should earn about a 10% profit at the most, and that's already very tight. So these people are struggling, and it's understandable that there's a sentiment of unrest coming our way, because how many more people are going to have lost their income, lost their livelihood, lost everything they worked for, and then have the time on their hands to basically lament the people who put them in that position and lament the situation that got them to where they are. And that's definitely a concern because, you know, it reminds me of that Styx song, you know, too much time on my hands. It's never a good thing for anybody, you know? So let's see here. Trying to catch up in the chat. We have some good input there. Let's see. There's a lot of people that say that CFP needs a bourbon. Donald Sinyard.
Yeah, I saw some out there. They said that I look bored. Actually, I'm looking down because I'm actually reading the chat while it's going through. I'm listening to AP right here with my earphones. I did see somebody say that I look like a 60 Roadster that they knew, or hot rodder. I used to be. Now I drive a big old Tahoe. But yeah, I used to have muscle cars.
Well, and this Focus is just not working for me right now, apparently. You know, I will say that if I could have a bourbon with CFP, I would. So I'm just going to throw that out there.
Donald Sinyard, I quit drinking, actually.
Oh,
I quit drinking last February. So I'm coming up on a year. Yep, gave it up.
Always a good thing. It's never going to hurt you in any way to not drink. So
I'm working on cigarettes. I have failed at that, but I have cut back a lot. But no, I have not quit smoking yet. But I did quit drinking.
Well,
you're happy, buddy. That's all that matters.
One more step, right? That's awesome. I will say Donald Sinyard also mentioned before that a lot of this is to implement the UBI, the Universal Basic Income. And like you said, Alaska Prepper, that is how you get control. You take the ability of people to say no away from them because they can't say no if you're the one paying their rent or paying their bills. I mean, it's very similar to how a job works. And that's basically what UBI is. You now work for the government in the sense of, well, I don't want to take out the trash. Okay, well, you do it or you're fired. And it's the same exact situation that's going to happen if UBI becomes a reality. Because, I mean, I might not want to, you know, turn all my power off at 10 o'clock at night, you know, during the universal curfews that might come into place due to a lockdown. But, hey, if they're paying for it, then I can't really argue. And that's a situation none of us want to be in. I don't know. I know no one in the preparedness community that is excited to just, you know, live off the government dollar and live under, you know, the thumb of tyranny. I'm pretty sure that's a very shared concept for all of us that it's not really what we're looking forward to, you know?
Oh, sign me up for those famous stamps.
Hey, Matt, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna give you my last input before I sign off. All right.
Let's hear it.
Then I'm just gonna hang out in the chats for a few minutes.
Okay.
So, I'm all for UBI, man. I think they ought to send everyone $20,000 a month forever. All right. And let me tell you why. No, I'm serious. Let me tell you why I'm all for it. This is why, because our system died. It is dead. The dollar is dead. And the faster that we can get it over with and get into our next paradigm, our next, you know, financial paradigm, the better it will be for our children. So let us go through the pain now so that hopefully in a generation, this will all have evened out or leveled out and our children can maybe be free. So I'm all for the government printing as much as they want. Why? Number one, because they're going to print as much as they want anyways. Number one. And number two, instead of giving it to all of these corporations that all they do is buy back their own stocks with all this free money that they get, give it to the people so that they can at least get a little bit prepared. Because eventually, whether the money goes to you, the people, or whether it goes to the corporations, eventually you will be paying that $20 for a gallon of milk. Eventually you will be paying that. It's a trickle-down effect, but not the good kind. It's the trickle-down effect that allows the people that get their hands on the money first to spend it with all of its original value intact. And then by the time it gets down to you, it's worth almost nothing. All right. So that's why I say I'm all for Mr. Government. Please print as much money as you want and send it to the people, because eventually this system is over. I hope that it's over sooner than later for the mere reason, like I said, that hopefully by the time that our children are grown, maybe they can have a level playing field where the banksters and the corporations are not in charge of their lives. So having said that, hey, listen, ladies and gentlemen, let me end it on a good note here. I want to say Happy New Year's to everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me, man. I had a good time. I think we've been on here for about 40 minutes, or at least I have, something like that.
Yeah,
good to see you as always, my brother CFP. All right, and
always good to see you, brother.
Yeah, I hope that we all have a good year this year. You know, I'm here telling you guys that things are gonna get worse, and I say I hope we have a good year. I do hope that we have a good year. I hope that I'm 100% wrong. I hope that everything we talked about as far as negative things happening, that I'm 100% wrong. The only thing is I don't think I am. And I think that a lot of people that look at the situation in which we are now would agree that things are going to get a little bit tougher. But there's always hope. Prepare and hope that your preparations will get you to the other side of whatever may happen, right? But prepare for the worst, hope for the best, all right? And then we'll see you all on the other side. All right, God bless you guys.
Alaska Prepper, Rudy, really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for stopping in.
All right, take care. Nice to see you, P.
Hey, AP, make sure you tell Victor I get those rabbit ears to him. I do have your mailing address. I will get him a set.
Well, you know, Alaska Prepper, very solid member of the community, and like I said, if you are trying to figure out how to store food and you want to figure out different ways and different recipes for things you can do in the sense of long-term food storage, check out his channel because he has a ton of good information about that, and he also has some other prepper, you know, preparedness relevant content as well. So definitely a good channel to check out. And if you know, if Josh or if Rip Curl, you guys want to put a link to his channel in the comments, that'd be great. So, or in the chat, I guess. So, you know, I know we're getting some different chats coming through. So I have a question that's coming in for you here, CFP. You know, people are just getting started this spring for a garden. You know, like what kind of advice would you have? But real quick, before I let you address that, I got Christopher Reed. I appreciate the super chat. He said, you know, I'm going to start a prepping channel in Texas. Any tips? And I think that CFP and myself will tell you, if you're going to start a channel, which I suggest everybody do because it's been amazing and it's a really good experience, at least give it a shot. You know, you have to be extremely patient. You have to be very patient. Do not expect to make a video and have it go viral and have a huge channel, you know, the next day. You know, both CFP and I have been on this platform for almost, you know, going on 2 years here pretty soon. And it takes a lot of patience and a lot of work. So just keep that in mind because a lot of people kind of expect instant success in many ways and then get discouraged and then just give up. So don't do that. You know, understand that it's going to be a long marathon, not just, you know, a quick, you know, sprint to the finish. So, and I think you could probably say the same thing, right, CFP?
Yeah, and you're not discouraging anybody with that. I mean, it's what they say as the YouTube creators, and this with any channel, it's a marathon. And there are some really great YouTube channels out there that teaches people how to do YouTube. Watch them. Watch your favorite prepping channels. See what they're doing. I don't mean copy identical what they're doing. You know, make it your own personality, and keep your personality. You start acting all fakey and stuff, it just, people can identify them. We're preppers. We look for certain things, and just be honest with yourself with it. You know, you don't have to go tell everybody what street you live on, but just be honest with your preps. Don't try to do no shady stuff. Hey, look at all this stuff I just bought. It looks like the labels are falling off. You know, just be honest with everything. If you got some old stocks and you want to show some old stocks, say, hey, this is some stuff I got put back in the back. You know, just be honest with people, and you'll see things grow. Yeah, like you said, it's not overnight. If you're overnight, tell us the secret. Contact Magic Prepper, contact me. Say, hey, man, I figured it out. I broke the algorithm. I know everything. Please.
So we got the question about getting a garden started. I would say if you want to just do a quick overview of maybe some of your first mistakes when it comes to, you know, getting a survival garden going and trying to, you know, give somebody an idea of what they should expect on their first go around where they might not be able to be as successful as they want to be.
The first mistakes is planning out of season. That's the first thing. Check your packets. Check and see what your hardness zone is. That's the first thing. Make sure that you are planting the correct crop for the correct season. And also, if you're planting on a very large garden, step it out 2 weeks plants. Okay, start with seedlings for your tender plants like spinach and stuff like that, and then move those packets of seedlings, you know, when the plant starts coming out, and put that into the ground. There are some hardened seeds like corn stuff, you know, larger seeds you can put directly into the ground and they'll do great. Weeding, make sure you stay up on your weeding. You can, I mean, some people want to go all organic gardening. I have nothing against that. I will tell you it's a lot tougher if you've never done gardening before. Miracle Grow does create a product for vegetable gardens. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that, unless you don't want to eat Miracle Grow. But you got to start somewhere. If you fail the first year, then you just fail the first year. Don't keep that from doing again for a fall garden or the next year. Do not give up. Just keep practicing. Watch garden videos here on YouTube. There's a lot of great gardeners that do gardens. Watch how they're doing their vegetable gardens. Get involved with their community. Ask them questions about it. Have I failed at certain gardens? Yeah, I have. Florida is a very brutal place. It would be hot one day. The next day you get a cold rain or strong winds. And next thing, I mean, I've done videos where my corn was flat on the ground. I had to go back and make sure nothing was broke, restake it just to get it back in the ground. So it's a lot of hit and miss, and just depends on weather. But make sure you stay on top of your weeding. Make sure you got the correct hardness level, zone for your crops, and space them out. If you're doing a large amount, you don't want a whole acre of corn coming in, because it's going to go bad really quick by the time you eat it and process it. So every 2 weeks, plant another crop. And when one sets off and grows, you got 2 weeks till that next crop comes in. Now, it's one of the best advice I can give on those.
Well, that's good. And honestly, what I will say, just from like the minimal experience I have in the sense of trying to be a gardener, the first go around is all trial and error, and you don't usually start off with a green thumb. So don't let it discourage you if your entire crop fails, because things are going to happen. Rodents are going to happen, deer are going to come, everything's going to happen. Like a super powerful thunderstorm is going to come through and wreck everything. You just have to be prepared for that failure and then learn from that failure as much as you can. So I know a lot of people are asking, thoughts on January 6th, and that is a date that a lot of people are watching right now due to what's supposed to happen in Washington, D.C. And I would say that everybody needs to at least keep an eye out. I'm not going to speculate on exactly what's going to happen, because we've seen things like this before, and it kind of reminds me of what happened in Virginia a year ago when the Patriots went and marched on the Capitol there to show their disdain for the gun control and everything else that was happening. And I think that, DC is going to be in a similar situation there, but there is a possibility for there to be, I don't know, more to it, because of the fact that it should be probably a larger crowd and probably more of a reason for people to be upset. Now, there's a lot of politics involved with this, of course. There's a lot of things being kind of put out there by the POTUS and everything else. So this is something that we watch for. And I think that, in the chat, you guys would be, well off to kind of let us know what you guys think about the 6th, because speculating on it is the only thing we really can do it as of right now. And I think one of the things that I try to do in the sense of being prepared is watch out for all these different situations that are happening and understand that some things are more than what they seem and other things are less. And it's hard to differentiate from, what's going to really happen versus, what's reality. If you want to watch all the comms and you want to look through all the message boards and everything else that are on the internet, and if that's all you look at, you're going to look at that date and assume that there's going to be some kind of a serious situation on our hands. And if you watch mainstream media and that's the only place that you get your information from, you're going to assume that, everything will be under control. So I'm not exactly sure, to be honest, and I do think that it's something we have to watch out for, though. Make sure that you're ready for any kind of a strange event to occur there, just as we would be for any other, massive rally, especially now after 2020. Because when it comes to people gathering in large crowds, when it comes to anything that sparks any kind of emotion and feeling regarding, what's currently happened in our political environment, there's a good chance that especially some people will have bad intentions and want to use that situation to their advantage in order to try to get their point across.
Yeah, I agree with you on a lot of that. Now, I did go and consult with my Magic 8-ball, a little shaken one, and it said result was unclear. But I'll tell you this, on January 6th, as a prepper, I'm actually traveling. I am on my way to Tallahassee on January 6th. I owe my wife a anniversary for one. I'm late because the the election stuff we had. We stayed put. We didn't know what was going on, and our birthdays are both in January. So we're going to Tallahassee to go be with her mother, and she wants to go visit her mother for this. I'm like, all right, no problem. So I'm going to be there for a couple of days. Now, what steps did we take? Well, we have preparedness groups. We have communities. They know exactly what routes we're taking. They know exactly what backup routes we're taking. We have multiple ways of contacting in case something happens, and we can extract ourselves and others in the process. Is that extreme? Not in today's time. I don't believe it is. All right. We're going to the Capitol. I mean, you can actually see the Capitol from her house. So, yeah, we're going to be right there in the middle of everything if something was to go stupid. But now with the DC, yeah, I have a feeling it's going to be about like what you said with the when everybody went up to Virginia there. I think it's going to be about the same. My big concern is another group amongst them. And
Right.
then if something goes down with that, then governmental has an excuse for a lot more roundups on some of our rights. And I'm afraid something like that might go down. It don't mean it will. Let's just as a prepper, we'll look at multiple scenarios, and that would be a perfect scenario for an overreach by the by the government. It doesn't mean that's going to happen, but I look at them like, if I wanted to do something, if I wanted to take this away from American people, what would I do? Well, that would be one of them. All right. Again, it doesn't mean I'm correct on that. And I did see plenty of Elvis comments there. No, I'm not Elvis. Hate to break it to everybody. Elvis went home. So
We found him.
yeah. I just got great sideburns. That's all. But I get that a lot actually. And yeah, CFP is Central Florida Prepper, like Magic Prepper talked about at the beginning. My channel is Survival Living now. We changed it because we don't live in Central Florida anymore. We're going to be homesteading in Wyoming. So we couldn't be Central Florida Prepper in Wyoming. So we made an early change, and then we just got stuck here in Florida for the time being. So hopefully that clears up those questions on that. But back to you there, Magic Prepper.
Well, I see. So Doomsayer says nothing sandwich, right? And I think that a lot of people feel that way. And the one thing, I guess, just seems to be a trend, and I'm not trying to call anybody out politically for any certain reason here. But it seems to be that when they do have these larger gatherings, when it comes to people on the conservative side of the argument, there doesn't seem to be the tag along of looting and riots and unrest that you see in some of the other gatherings. But I think the biggest thing to watch out for is going to be, like you said, the secondary groups that arrive in order to instigate whatever they can in order to demean the argument that these people are going to be showing up for. And it is an extremely volatile situation because of that. I mean, we're talking about a large group of people who are basically forming up to say, we don't agree with what's about to happen here, and we're ready to make a stand about it. So definitely a tumultuous situation. So keeping an eye on it is an important thing to do. And like some of the people here said, there's speculation there revolving around if people are going to use the situation to declare martial law, if people are going to use the situation to, further their political agenda. It's definitely something that's going to be happening, and we have to watch out for. The country's in a rough spot,
You definitely want to be vigilant in everything. I mean, we're preppers. We're the low guys on the totem pole. I mean, I don't have any special clearance on anything that's behind governmental desk as far as any paperwork. Hey, this is what's going on. All I can do is look at what's going on and make an informed decision on what I have available. And unfortunately, guys, we got a lot of mainstream that's only available to us. Sure, we can go around this nook and cranny and this group here saying this. I mean, yeah, we can listen to a whole bunch of things. I'm not saying don't, but when you get done listening to everything, making an informed decision, look at what's connecting, what's not connecting, and then go off of that. Trust your gut. But yeah, we're kind of spitballing on a lot of things, and most of them are educational guests. We're looking at it going, okay, history says this. I feel a lot of tension over here. So what am I going to do? Am I going to go run up there? I'm not. I did see somebody just recently, if you don't mind me continuing here.
Yeah.
Just recently, they were venting on on the platform here, they started doing videos, and of course YouTube smacked them, took down their videos, and they're mad about that. But they're screaming and hollering, cussing up a storm, why the patrons haven't done anything yet. And I was sitting there watching this. I was looking at this, and they're screaming and hollering. You know, you said that y'all weren't going to take, you know, y'all weren't going to put up with this no more, and all this and all that. And I'm watching this. I'm like, doesn't this individual know that these patriots have family? These patriots have to watch everything they do, because if they get charged with a felony, they lose a lot of rights. But you're just going to sit there on YouTube screaming and hollering how you're not doing anything. Y'all need to do something. What are you doing? You're sitting behind your camera screaming at everyone else to go do something for you instead of you actually doing anything yourself. And I just couldn't believe how the mentality was there. And I saw it a couple other times in other videos. I'm like, y'all, it's easy to get rant and rave and scream and holler. Y'all need to be doing something, but what are you doing as well? You know, it goes both ways there. It's like, you want somebody to go take care of your problem for you. Again, where does that usually lay at? Just saying, well, I kind of pointed on the side on that one.
No, you know, I would say that a lot of that sentiment also comes from people who preach or talk a lot about the subject in a certain way, but then don't actually do anything about it. So, and that's why, you know, even here on this channel, you know, I don't try to tell people what they need to do or what they should be doing, because if I'm not willing to do it myself, then it's not right for me to try to, you know, push other people into that direction, you know? Yeah. And of course, you know, it is true, when you have an intensive job and you have families and everything else, it makes it a little bit more difficult to sign up for things that are unknown and unsure, you know? So let's see here. We are going up to an hour and 20 minutes now in this chat. So I do want to say thank you for everything so far, everybody. It's been awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we've had a really good time. Let's see. I've got a lot of people here are saying some interesting things. So one thing I want to talk about that I want to get some people's advice on, and if you're in the chat, please feel free to let me know your thoughts here and give me some ideas. And this is something that is just, you know, important. But just like CFP here, he is trying to relocate to be more strategic and have more self-sufficiency when it comes to the way he lives and the way he can prepare for whatever might occur. And I am in a similar situation. So if you guys had to be in a certain part of the country, and if you had a situation in place where you could relocate somewhere else and find yourself in a more sustaining situation, where is everybody going? What's everybody think is the correct destination? What do you guys think is the place to be when it comes to being more prepared and being more shielded from some of the things that are happening out there? Because I am interested. I mean, I think a lot of people, you know, have their ideas, and a lot of people honestly say where they live is where you should go because they probably like it there. They have a good reason behind, you know, why it's a good place for them. But I'm curious, because let's say I had the ability to get up and buy a house and move somewhere right now. Where should I go? Because it's something I always consider. You know, it's definitely kind of something that all of us probably think about often in the preparedness community. Where should I try to set a goal to be? Where can I be long term? That's going to be the best place to be.
Yeah, that's Tahiti.
An island is not the worst place, but I hear that they're quarantined easily. You know what I mean? Let's see here. So getting a lot of interesting information here. And of course, a lot of what's coming in is going to be the central part of the United States. And I think people feel like if you pull it in more central, you're away from the coast, which are obviously wide open for any kind of a conflict situation if it ever occurred. Obviously, a lot of the major cities are out on the coast and have their own share of issues as well. Let's see here. And then some people, you know, obviously feel that if it's real SHTF, or if there's, you know, any kind of a real event, that it won't matter where you are and that it's just going to be what it is.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people talking around other channels and other forums about it would just be a constant nomadic living. You're constantly traveling, and it just depends on the scenario. I mean, yeah, it could result to that if it's an ecological damage to livestock, wildlife, plant, floral, and stuff like that. Yeah, I could definitely see a gypsy style moving. Well, I shouldn't say gypsy style. Migrating lifestyle, as far as older times when, well, let's take Native Americans for an example. They had hunting season, they had hunting grounds, they were constantly moving to stay out of certain weather conditions. Yeah, it could be something like that. But I really tried. We're trying to plan on Wyoming because we bought the land there because the sparse population is hard to get to our property. Um, we're away from, I mean, there's no ambient lights where we're at. I mean, the sky is huge because there is nothing filtered onto where we're at, well, where we're going to be at on that property. That's why we picked that, but it's also very isolated. If there's a major medical emergency on our property, we don't have EMS service. They clearly told us when we bought the land, when we went through the company to get the property and stuff, they said, yeah, you're on your own out there. I'm like, perfect. So I said, so they said, fire department won't show up, EMS won't show up, police won't show up. I'm like, perfect, I'm good. But the fact is, if something major happens, we've got a lot of traveling to do down cattle roads to get to a town for medical emergencies. All right. If I lop off a hand, fortunately, I know I have to stop the bleeding, but the countdown starts. And the countdown, I've got to be able to make sure I get medical treatment. They will not be there. There's no one's going to show up. So it's something to think about. I mean, my wife and I, we're starting to get up there in age now. All right. Turn 42 January 5th, 42. I had to think there. That's how old I am. So, I got to think, I'll be homesteading, ranching, as far as ranching guys goes, no, I'm not going to have a whole thing of cattle and stuff like that. Just enough for self-sufficient living. But I've got to do all that stuff on my own. How long am I going to be able to continue doing that? Now, the old school people were doing it till they died, 80, about 80% of the population, as far as life expectancy, wasn't like 110 ranching. But, I'm looking at that too. Is that going to keep us from doing anything? No, I don't belong in society. All right. I don't. My mentality, my mindset, even at a young age, I do not like big cities. If the big cities for you, that's okay. There's plenty of ways to prep in the big city. I do not do well in large populated areas. I don't like being around a lot of people. I feel constricted. I feel like I've got someone right on top of me all the time. And I grew up in the mountains. I didn't grow up here in Florida. I grew up in North Carolina. I had plenty of freedom. I'd walk out the back door from my parents' home and it's just nothing but woods and creeks. Well, over time, I traveled everywhere as a welder, worked all over the country, Canada and Mexico. And I've been to Seattle, I've been to Portland, I've been all over the place. I've been in California, Sacramento. So I know when it's tight moving around San Francisco, and I'm like, I don't like this. To me, I got more peace and quiet outdoors. And that's why I like doing my campings and stuff like that, because I'm away from everybody. I can actually relax. But some people, they don't like being outside and in the woods. So,
well, and honestly, what a lot of people will say is the biggest issue is that there's a lot more opportunity in the cities. There's a lot more, of an ability to earn an income and to advance your career and everything else related to that, which is why a lot of people get stuck in the city because they start on a career path, they have a good income, but they get trapped in the higher price of living, which they can't escape very easily because you basically find yourself, no matter what income level you're at, you end up spending what you earn. Because if you make good money, you end up living in a nicer place and you end up getting a nicer vehicle. And the next thing you know, you're still living paycheck to paycheck, but just having more expensive things. And that seems to be an issue a lot of Americans have because a lot of us live outside of our means and don't value saving and value, having extra money, I guess,
No, you're absolutely right. In the welding trade, small towns, maybe, all right, trying to think back in time, I think I was making like $8.25 an hour as a welder. I was stick welding. All right. Not the greatest pay, but it was above minimum wage. Minimum wage at the time was $5.25 an hour. But now when I was in a bigger city, I made nearly 3 times as much. But now I was working on bigger, better, high-end products. And I was having a different type of weld procedures that I do. I do TIG weld and whatever. But yeah, when I was in the bigger cities, I made more money. But to commute, it was better to be in that city. I mean, I was in Daytona driving all the way to Orlando every single day for the wages I was making as a welder there. It was great money, but I was, an hour and a half each day one way, and then nearly 3 hours at the end of the day because it's bumper to bumper traffic. Same out in Oregon. When I was living out in Silverton, I was driving to Jansen Beach on the other side of Portland. That drive sucked, but it was a better pay. And yeah, in the cities, it's designed to have better pay. And if you live in right there in the city, yeah, you're going to pay more for cost of living, or you live out in the outskirts and the pay, the cost of living is cheaper and stuff like that. So yeah, I do understand the getting stuck in the cities. I absolutely do. And it's easy for us to go, if you live in the city, get out of the city. You're not going to make it. That's the easy way out. Do I want to be in the city? No, I don't. But I know that there's plenty of, we got some YouTube channels, City Prepping, The Urban Prepper. They teach what you should be doing in these type of situations, and you can survive in it.
And they're
the experts at it. Yeah. Me personally, I'm getting out because I don't know my head from my rear end at some of those locations. I'm like, no, too many windows for me. But it doesn't mean that I'm right or they're wrong or anything like that. It's just you can get stuck in the city. I'm not going to sit there and tell you got to uproot your family, go shove them out there in the country, and now you don't have a job. Well, if you got kids, you can have CPS or DHS or whatever knocking on your door, taking your kids away because now they're not in school. There's all kind of things you got to take the time and look at. You can't just rush out and go, all right, I'm out here. Now what am I going to do? I don't want to be one of those guys that come across like that.
That, honestly, I lived that life for a little while as well. I worked in San Jose, California, while living in a town called Tracy, California. And it was about a 45-minute drive according to maps. And it was about a 2.5-hour drive at 7 o'clock in the morning. So, the problem was that in San Jose, I could make a lot more money than what I could earn in Tracy. And in order to live in that area, you have to make a lot of money. So it was definitely an issue that, kind of actually propelled our move to North Dakota, because out here the opportunity was great and the cost of living was a little bit more affordable than what I could do in the East Bay area. And that was a rough time for us because we were literally not earning enough money to pay our bills. So we were making decisions every single month as to what we were or weren't going to pay. And that's not a good position for anybody to be in. But I can understand why some people get stuck in the city for that reason, because they literally don't feel like there's a way out, and it's definitely something that happens to a lot of us, unfortunately. I will say thanks. Abia731 says, thank you, Magic Prepper. What if conservative crisis actors will be planted January 6th in D.C. to stir up trouble and make it look like patriots conservatives are being violent? I mean, that's definitely a possibility, and it'll always be a possibility. And we know that certain people are out funding some of these fringe groups that, have an agenda that they want to make sure people look a certain way, regardless of what is actually happening. And I think we all know that there's definitely a precedent set there for things like that to occur. So, and I think we have to keep in mind, just like what we said at the very beginning of this broadcast, with this whole vandalism situation where they knocked down a 350-foot cell tower. I mean, calling it vandalism, it just goes to show you that the narrative is always going to be put into a certain kind of a situation that makes it easier for them to sell the story. So, and I think, it always depends on who's at fault, because let's be honest, if it was probably somebody related to one group, they would consider it vandalism. And then the other group, it would be considered some kind of domestic violence situation, if you know what I mean. So,
yeah. The safe words.
Yeah. It's one of those things, I know that not everybody's aware of how the platform works, but if we say things a certain way, we might disappear. And that's just real life, unfortunately.
It's just the way it is. We're playing in their playground, so we have to abide by certain rules. It doesn't mean that we like it. And I've seen the comments on many channels, oh, man, you're just catering. You just say whatever, No, we're trying to abide by the rules to get a message out. So it means we have to tweak a certain way. And I've seen some of the new ones that come out. I was the same way when I first started. Well, they're not going to tell me what to do. After removing many videos, you're like, well, if I want to have a YouTube channel, I kind of have to do what they tell me what to do. So we use code words and stuff like that just to skate around that system to still get the topic out. I mean, I've seen a large channels get knocked down over this recent event we're fixing to see as far as movement to DC, and have their videos removed. And these guys, 300, 500,000 subscribers. and their videos get pulled. So yeah, the platform does not play around on certain things. So we have to abide.
It just happened to Black Scout Survival actually on one of his lives. So
on his last live, I believe it was.
Yeah. And I mean, so it doesn't matter what kind of pull you have or what sway you have or anything like that. They'll get rid of you if they feel like you're doing something they don't like. So, so let's see here. Yeah. I mean, and Dee said they banned Richie from Boston. I mean, yeah, like those are people that have been around forever and have a huge following, and it doesn't matter to the platform. If it's not with what they want, then there it is. And that's the unfortunate side of being here. But at the same time, we all know how private entities work. And if you don't want to participate, no one's forcing you to. So that's also something I try to consider. Very much along the lines of when an establishment asks you to wear a mask, if you don't want to wear one, don't go in. I mean, I don't know. That's how capitalism works, in my opinion, anyway. So let's see here.
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree with you on that. I've always talked about if it's a private organization, private shop, or something like that, they have a right to tell you to put on a shirt, put on shoes, whatever. They got that right, just like I have a constitutional right to go shop somewhere else. I'm not now when the big G word likes to tell you what to do. That's when I run into an issue. But when it's a private business, a private restaurant, and they got to take care of their employees too, and they're saying you're not coming in without it. That's their right as a private business owner. So I have to respect their right as well, because I have the right to say, fine, you go somewhere else. So, and if people get upset over that, well, they can't tell you what, the Constitution goes both ways. If they're sitting there saying you can't come in without it, we could go back to no shoes, no shirt, no service. No one was in an uproar over that,
Well, and of course, we all have our personal feelings on that whole situation.
Yeah, it's all personal feelings on that.
Yeah, but at the same time, that's what businesses also have to decide, whether or not they're willing to deny sales or deny, transactions due to a mandate. And that's a tough decision to make when you're in a business, of course,
Yeah,
let's see here. I'm trying to check out a couple more of the comments here. I mean, and I do want to say one more time, like, you guys are awesome. Like, being able to come on here, have this live chat, have Survival Living or CFP and Alaska Prepper jump in and just chat about 2021 as a year that's coming up. Like I said, 2020 to me is a year of preparation. A ton of people got more prepared. There's a ton of more preppers out there than there used to be. There's a ton of new gun owners. There's a ton of people getting more involved with the idea of self-sufficiency and being in charge of their own destiny. But 2021 will most likely be a year of action in many ways, because now that you're prepared or you're on the path of preparedness, there's a good chance that some of that preparation will be tested due to the fact that we haven't even seen everything that's supposed to happen because of the effects of 2020 yet. And those things are on their way. I mean, it's not something we can avoid. And if you look at anything related to the financial crisis that this country is facing, that it's not going to get better anytime soon. And in fact, it still hasn't gotten worse to the point where it needs to go. The stock market still jumps around and likes to rally and everything else. And there's really no reason for it besides the artificial inflation they like to put into it. And that's something that we have to kind of watch out for. So let's see here. I know that everybody is trying to, keep things moving here in the sense of preparedness. And I do want to say one thing I've been concerned about, one thing I think that you guys should all be aware of, and I think it's something that we all have to kind of look at, within ourselves from time to time, but don't let everything that happened here in 2020 change your mind about your overall preparedness. When I say that is, don't let the idea that, okay, these, cloth masks are BS and I'm never going to wear one. Don't let that concept push you to not feel like you need to prepare for a pandemic. Like, don't feel like that is no longer a need for you just because the situation we're dealing with now isn't what it was chalked up to be. I mean, we can all realize that things aren't as dire as what we were originally told, but at the same time, it doesn't mean something like that can't eventually happen, and we still should prepare for it. And I feel like a lot of people out there, especially people who are not part of the preparedness community, are more than willing to just be fine with the idea of not worrying about anything related to any kind of a biological threat anymore at all. I don't know if you feel the same way, CFP, but I feel like that's kind of some of the sentiment I've been seeing around, even just, going around town.
Yeah, I've seen plenty with with the mask to begin with. Okay. Now, when this thing first came around, we saw it overseas. And I was looking at it. I said, well, you know what? I'm not going to get on a video on this yet because I'm just trying to see what's going to happen. And then it came here. And I think it was like in February, we finally did a video on it. And yeah, I was wearing my my mask. And I explained why. Because as a prepper, I didn't know what this thing was. I have a weak immune system. And anytime there's a flu or anything like that, I get sick. It does not matter what it is. I get it every year. Funny, though, I didn't get the flu this year. Interesting. I don't know what's up with that. But now I've also been, making sure I sanitize my hands a lot. But as far as worrying about things to come and other pandemics, yes, of course, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to prepare. That's why I prepare. It's not being fearful. It's just I know that there is a chance for that. It's a scenario that we've basically war gamed with. We looked at it. Okay, what are the chances of this happening? What are the chances of history to happen? Yes, I am still going to keep up with my pandemic preparedness because I don't know what's around the corner. And I feel with the push of this new one, there is going to be something. And I don't want to get on the whole conspiracy thing. I know you're not real big onto running with those, but there's enough talk and chatter of depopulation. Okay. It's a perfect one. So, hey, I like my life, and I like having my family to live as long as possible. Do I put stuff back? Chemical suits, biological suits, right type of filtration systems? Yes, I do. And it's because I'm a prepper. It's not just food is a huge part. All right, food is a huge part of prepping. Well, I'm in this situation where I can move forward with my prepping items. So yes, we start preparing for a pandemic. We got medical kits. We started make sure we had some form of medical training. No, I am not a doctor. Can I put my finger in a hole? Yes. Are you going to die from infection? Probably. But still, I at least took some steps into some type of way of preparing for something other than just sitting there going, well, if this happens, we're just going to die. It'll be all right. I don't want to die. I like living. That's why I'm a prepper. I want to extend my life as much as possible. Do I have any grand thoughts of grandeur of being the next king or czar of the post-apocalyptic world? No, more than likely it's going to be a bunch of idiots or zombies walking around, and they're not going to do anything. All right, so there we go.
No, sorry,
guys. Good. I joke a lot.
Hey, no, I mean, when he said you could put your finger in a hole, I'm pretty sure we just got demonetized. So, but I will say,
probably.
My wife wants to jump in real quick, just say hi to everybody because she's more popular than me, apparently. Yeah, if you want to jump in, you're good. Go ahead, just jump in. Say hi.
Hi.
push him out of his chair.
She doesn't get much airtime, but everybody likes her better than me anyway. So it kind of works.
They like my wife better too. They don't want to see me.
It happens, Yeah. So here, hold on one second. Technical difficulties. You can come say hi. Yeah, she.
I was trying to tell him to take his headphones off because I can't hear him.
And so one thing I will say that helps my ability to be prepared more is that my wife is actually supportive of it. And I think that yours is the same way, CFP, and that makes a huge difference. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, it definitely does. I've had so many people, I can't get my spouse to also prep. It's a huge thing, having your spouse backing you up in it. And one of the things I can always tell people when you're having that difficulty problem is just talk to them and tell them, listen, I'm making sure we have food in this house. So no matter what, we are able to eat. If I lose my job, you lose your job, I get hurt on the job, we got to be able to make sure we pay our rent, have food. That's why we're doing it. And that actually is your first doorstep in. They don't have to be on board with everything off the bat. Some of the things my wife looks at me, rolls her eyes, and says, oh, God, really? But I make sure I back it up with factual information so she can take a look at it. And she goes, okay, that makes sense. But some of the things I throw at her, she's like, no, get that out of here. But, I was trying to better watch what I say, monetization. I don't want to screw that up. But anyway, yeah, basically, yeah.
Well, I will say that I know everybody here in this chat and everybody here wants to be prepared. And so, I just want to make sure you guys understand, don't let things discourage you like what's happened here in 2020. Make sure you keep preparing and understand that there are some things happening behind the scenes that we don't have access to. And that there's intelligence and there's knowledge that we aren't aware of. But don't forget about the game of attrition. And we know that attrition is the strategy used by places around the world that have an interest in making our system fail here in the United States. And this game of attrition can be easily played when you take a population, you put out the concept of a pandemic, and then you create a mindset of it not being a serious situation. And then the next time around, nobody in the country decides to take any precaution. And that's when something can happen in a way that will hurt the population much further than what we've experienced now. And that's just a big concern I have. I think a lot of people have lost faith in what their leaders say, which is totally understandable because I'm one of those people. And I feel that a large portion of the population will not take the next situation as seriously as they might need to. And the whole cry wolf scenario has been overplayed now at this point, and enough people are going to figure out that they don't want to comply with anything in the future. And that's understandable. I think we all understand that, but I think we also need to understand that it is a dangerous concept because people won't be willing to take precautions when they actually will need to eventually.
No, I agree with you there. It's definitely a good way to look at it. And just being prepared, it doesn't mean that you're living your life in fearful. But yeah, this thing could develop into something much worse. You know what? It might not be anything at all. It does not hurt to just be prepared. Now, I'm not saying you have to sit there and enjoy being locked down all the time because some of the stuff they say is retarded. All right. Going to a restaurant, you got to wear a mask, but after you're done eating, you got to put your mask back on while you're still sitting at the table. I'm still learning, trying to figure that one out. But yeah, just be prepared. Be smart about it. You don't have to sit there and be terrified of everything around the corner. That's not prepping. That's being in fear. You'll wear yourself out. You'll burn yourself out quick. Being fearful of stuff. Now, I've seen, that's fear porn. Talking about a situation, not fear porn, is trying to educate people and let you have the informed decision to make a decision, or the correct information to make a decision. That's all we're trying to do. We're not trying to scare anybody into anything. Like, Magic Prepper, he would say himself, I mean, we've got affiliate links on a lot of stuff just because other companies have said, hey, you're interested in this, you're talking about this, we have this. We take a look at it and go, oh, it's a good product. We'll let people know. It's not like we're breaking off a huge portion of anything on these affiliate links. It's just, hey, I've had people ask, I'm sure you've had people ask you about those Jackery solar generators. They've been looking for a solar generator. You got up with a company, you found one and said, okay, guys, I looked into this. This is what's out there on the market now. Oh, I can't believe he just tried to sell us a solar generator. That son of a gun. It's so easy to attack people just because, I don't know, maybe the internet. I don't know.
Well, it's behind the veil, and I will say Modern Refugee, excellent channel, very good dude. He just said paranoia is good. It keeps me alive. I do want to just mention that understand that fear is a function of our bodies that makes us stay alive, and that it gets a bad rap because of what it's been used for in history. But at the same time, it's generally what keeps people alive in emergency situations and what gets your adrenaline going, and it gets you out of a situation before it becomes fatal. So just keep that in mind. Don't let the idea of fear become a constant negative in the sense of, it doesn't have a place, because it does have a place. And in any big situation, people are scared. And if you're not, you're probably lying to yourself. But what I will say is that we've been on for almost 2 hours now. So I think we're going to start wrapping it up.
All right.
You guys are awesome. I appreciate every single one of you here in the chat. It is very important to me that we have such a strong community. And I really do think that the more and more people we bring into the community, and the more people who are prepared, and everybody else who's ready for whatever events might occur here in 2021, the better off we'll be as a country and as a community. And I just hope that we can kind of keep this thing rolling and keep this thing growing.
Absolutely. And I definitely appreciate you having me on here. Again, to your chat there, you guys are amazing. Really good questions and comments. No, we probably don't agree on everything. That's what makes us great people. I mean, we don't have to agree. No one wants to be mindless drones.
No.
Having different perspectives on things is always key. You want to be able to think for yourself as much as possible. Again, definitely appreciate you having me here. And I tried to drag you over on Christmas Eve, but that's usually family time with everybody. It's hard to get everybody wrapped up on short notice anyway. But yeah.
But, definitely looking forward to do more of these here in the future. Thank you guys so much. Let's get some more live streams going in 2021. And I look forward to, interacting with every single one of you as much as I can. I really do appreciate it. And like I said, I read all the comments. I love the idea of being told I'm wrong and that I am, really off the right path and that I need to seek help, but all those things kind of keep me motivated and keep me grounded. I appreciate it. And what's awesome is that I know every single one in this, every single person in this chat right now will not end up being a marauder. So that makes me feel much better about everything. So, all right. Well, I appreciate every single one of you. CFP, thank you so much. I want to say thanks to Alaskan Prepper as well for coming in and giving us some good advice and some good information. And hopefully we'll see you all again soon.
All right, brother. Well, I'm going to log out here. And if you find the name of that therapist, let me know.
Will do. Y'all have a great night.